Everyone's gonna see this and be like, oh damn, Dragon Quest! And then they're gonna be all, oh damn, that's not Dragon Quest XI. You failed us, Kurukan. Way to go. So, disappointments toward me aside, I finally got off my lazy ass and finished Dragon Quest Builders recently. And hey, the timing isn't that bad with the sequel hitting Japan soon. Anyway, I specifically played through the game's port on the Vita, but since I can't record footage off that, you guys get to see footage from the PS4 demo. Hey, at least it's better than the Persona Q review, where I had to use footage from the game's opening and trailers. Obviously, the game takes a lot of cues from titles like Minecraft, what with the whole break stuff to build stuff that allows you to build more stuff aspect. However, unlike most of those titles, Dragon Quest Builders is filled to the brim with that Akira Toriyama charm, and even has a pretty well fleshed out story and cast. The story begins right before the final boss fight of the original Dragon Quest. Except you're not playing as the hero. Instead, he chooses to side with the Dragon Lord and brings ruin to the world. And before you ask, yes, there is an in-story reason briefly touched upon as to why he does this at the end of the game, and no, I won't spoil it. So basically, this game leads off with you in the darkest timeline version of DQ1's world. While I haven't played the original Dragon Quest, I have little doubt the effect it has on familiar locations can hit a fan right where it hurts. Even the music compositions are straight out of the original game, although obviously updated. You basically pull an altered beast here and
rise from your grave,
compelled by the goddess Rubis to save the world, not through the destruction of monsters, but through creation. Granted, expect quite a bit of slaughtering of those familiar Dragon Quest mooks for materials, but you'll also do plenty of running away from enemies throughout the game too. While the game does somewhat railroad you, with much of the game coming off as a lengthy tutorial, albeit a damn fun tutorial, there is mercifully stuff like side quests and challenges, and the game does typically allow you to tackle multiple story quests at the same time, at least once your little shantytown begins to grow. Now this might disappoint someone who likes the freedom granted by games like Terraria or Minecraft, especially since you have to repeat the basics from step 1 in each chapter. When you start the next chapter, you're stripped of your HP upgrades, your towns, equipment, etc. It also hurts the game's pacing at times, as some parts of the title really do wind up feeling like you're just grinding or otherwise come off as filler. That is, until the fourth and final chapter, where they basically take the kid gloves off and expect you to fend for yourself for much of it. And that's not a bad thing. Unfortunately, it's also probably the shortest chapter. However, what it has over its genre siblings is its characters and story. As usual, Akira Toriyama's designs are fantastic, and really complement the game's cast of memorable goofs, weirdos, and goobers. It doesn't hurt that these characters all translate so well into 3D. Even on the Vita's modest hardware, the graphics look great, sticking with simplistic yet detailed models. A slight disappointment is the pitiful amount of customization you're given with the builder themselves. There's no real CAC. You just get to pick their gender, hair, eye, and skin color, unfortunately. It's obviously not a deal breaker, but it makes me wonder why they included it at all if they weren't going to do more with it. Obviously, the PS4 version looks a lot sharper and has better textures, and from what I've seen of the Switch port, it looks like it's about on par with that version. I can't really speak about the PS3 version, but I don't believe that port even made it stateside to begin with. If I'm wrong, let me know. The game does run a bit more slowly on the Vita, and when things are crowded, the frame rate can drop a little, but it never becomes unplayable, thankfully. That being said, the PS4 version seemed to stutter here or there, though maybe it was just my imagination. It was much more subtle than its handheld brother, and it didn't affect my playing whatsoever, so it's not even worth noting. I can't comment on the Switch version's performance either, but seeing as how I've not heard any complaints, I'd assume it's smooth and stable. Of course, the characters go well beyond just their appearances. Even minor NPCs are just oozing with charm, and they become more involved with the story as the game continues. Chapter 2 and on have some fantastic NPCs who add so much heart to the story, and makes the linear progression of the game compared to its peers considerably more tolerable. P.S. Barbella, best girl. Even the game's silent protagonist is given some level of charm. The constant jokes at their expense for staring off with a vacant expression or being compared to a potato never stopped making me laugh, and the way some of the NPCs react to the builder's inability to show any sort of respect towards others made me crack up constantly. It doesn't hurt that NPCs aren't all just super depressed or anything. Every NPC has their own personality, and it affects them to some degree in the gameplay. You're not going to see warriors cooking food in the kitchen very often, and many characters will run and hide when the town falls under attack, which helps make it feel a bit more alive. Even in Chapter 3, you start to get a party that follows you. Unfortunately, I don't know why they waited until so late in the game to add this, and their pathfinding is a little less than spectacular. And unfortunately, this aspect never comes into play anywhere other than Chapter 3, at least to the best of my knowledge. Which is kind of weird to introduce a mechanic so late in the game only to drop it immediately after. Unfortunately, this brings me to one of the weaknesses of the game as well: the building. That's not to say making your own town isn't fun. It's a total blast and a half. Making new rooms for different purposes is satisfying, and it can be fun to make a personal room just for your favorite NPCs. But you're given a very small area to actually build in. Sure, you can build more stuff wherever you want, but it's not actually counted as part of the town if it's not within the small building radius. You could try stacking buildings, and I often did so, but this leads to another problem: the camera. In cramped areas, especially with a ceiling, the camera is going to ride right up your ass like a fierce wedgie and makes navigation difficult. And against certain types of enemies, they can completely ruin your town. At one point, a rather large enemy found his way into my town square, and he proceeded to smash most of the buildings, chasing one cowardly NPC, leaving me to take several days to repair everything. Thankfully, this isn't super common, but it can be aggravating. Also, this can lead to setting up traps against enemies, and an NPC will wind up on the other side of it, which is actually really funny to see. Another gripe I have is some NPCs will give you blueprints to design a specific room. While this in of itself isn't an issue, the problem is you have to design it exactly to their specifications. And even just putting the blueprint down can be a pain in the ass due to the way the walls are handled. If something's in the way, it won't let you put down the blueprint. The fact that it railroads you on this can be aggravating. Thankfully, it only does this with the first instance of this and only when using a blueprint. Otherwise, you're free to build it however you like. On the plus side, the game does actually tell you how to make the various recipes. When you pick up a new material, you'll learn recipes automatically, and you can check those at any time from the menu. This includes not only materials or general items, but even buildings. And you retain these recipes, which makes rebuilding this kind of thing in the future much easier. It even helpfully tells you what kind of building station you need to use. The downside is when you're actually in the crafting menu, the items are all on one big list. While they are separated somewhat, I feel like having tabs would have made it a little bit less cramped. The game also allows you to replay a chapter whenever you like, which is a nice aspect. This means you can replay a chapter and do various challenges whenever you like without starting from the beginning. And when a chapter is cleared, you unlock new recipes and locations in the game's Terra Incognito mode, which is essentially the game's free mode. While Terra Incognito still gives you a small building area, it's apparently a lot more randomized as to who arrives in your town, and there's no specific goal as far as I know. So that might be worth checking out if you're more into the other games in the genre. Your character also won't level up. While you can level up your town, your character's stats are decided entirely by what equipment you've got, with the exception of HP, which increases as you gain Seeds of Life, which slightly increase your maximum health. Something else I should mention: the bosses. Personally, I think most of them are quite a bit of fun. They tend to use something you learned from the chapter, and require a bit more forethought than smack them with a stick. It doesn't always work, however. The game's second boss fight is an utter slog, and may require you to go out of your way to set up your town in an awkward fashion. Still, the rest of the boss fights are pretty fun. I'm especially fond of Chapter 3's boss battle, and the final boss's second form was damn cool. I think my only gripe is that for all the build-up of putting your town together and preparing it for whatever may lie ahead, it's a bit of a downer that you fight them all one-on-one, save for the last boss once he transforms. For all its flaws, Dragon Quest Builders is still irresistibly charming. It's got problems for sure, but nothing that really ruins the enjoyment, not even the slog of a boss fight during the second chapter. There's a lot of clever tools, great writing, fantastic characters, and, well, I know I keep mentioning it, but charm. If there's one word I can say describes it more than anything else, it's charming. I won't claim to be a Dragon Quest expert. I don't know a ton about the series, though I'm not entirely new to it either. But having finished this has made me more interested in the franchise as a whole, and I intend to look into it more. And I'm glad to see the series is gaining more of a foothold outside of Japan. It's earned it. Without a doubt, I definitely recommend Dragon Quest Builders. As for what version? It doesn't matter. Just get it for whichever system you want it for. The Vita version probably looks and performs the worst, but honestly, it works fine. And control-wise, I think it's almost better than the PS4 version, like the Vita was tailor-made for the game. The PS4 version looks and runs better, but the game feels really right at home on a handheld. It's possible the Switch version gives the best of both worlds, but seeing as how I haven't interacted with it at all, I can't really say for sure. But really, it's a great game no matter the platform. Just have some fun with it. That being said, you may want to shop around for a better price. It's absurd that it's still $60 on the PS4, and that's pretty steep for this game to begin with. That's not to say it's not good. It is. I'm just not sure it's $60 good. Even the Vita version's $40 price tag might be a bit steep. I'd recommend trying to find it for no more than $30, but regardless of the price, definitely play it. If you want a taste of it, there is a demo on both the PS4 and Vita, although you may need to get the demo off the PC PlayStation Store, as I couldn't find it for the PS4 when I went to record the footage for this review, which is just weird. I don't know if there's a demo for the Switch, so sorry I don't have info on that. I do hope Dragon Quest Builders 2 fixes some of my gripes with this game, and even though it sadly won't be on the Vita, I'm looking forward to it just the same. Having already confirmed co-op multiplayer, apparently both online and off, at least one missing aspect is being taken care of, so with a bit of luck my complaints will be covered as well. But they could have honestly just made the same game again in a new location and I'd probably eat it up. Still, this first entry was wonderfully satisfying, and if you're a Dragon Quest fan or a fan of the genre, I definitely recommend checking it out. Did I mention you get a freaking car later on? This thing is the most badass part of the entire game. Thank you guys so much for watching. Agree? Disagree? Let me know your thoughts. And if you want more content, well, I don't have more Dragon Quest stuff, but seeing as how Akira Toriyama did the character designs, maybe check out my playthrough of Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit. Or if you want a review of something Toriyama related, maybe peep at one of those Dragon Ball Z movie reviews.